Hey guys, welcome back to the booth. We are ready to go for the ultimate round here of the World Championship. We are going to get our fourth top four competitor right now. Let's head down to the feature match area. Hello and welcome to coverage of the Magic World Championship. We're in Nice, France. Randy Buehler, Simon Gertzen, Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth. Let's meet our players.
I'm Kentaro Yamamoto. I live in Japan at large.
Shahar Shenhar from Israel, 2013 World Champion.
All right, so here's Kentaro Yamamoto. He's going to play against Shahar Shenhar. Randy, set the stage for us here.
All right, the pairings are kind of crazy this round. There's 4 guys competing for that last spot in the top 4. None of them are playing each other. 3 of them are playing the 3 guys that have already clinched, and then the 4th one, Sam Black, is actually paired down against Yuki Ichikawa. Now, it's 4 guys for 1 spot. Shahar has by far the best tiebreaker, so this is pretty much a win and in for Shahar.
Okay.
But all 4 guys are live because, you know what, the other 3 guys could all lose.
Yeah, we're so used to players playing win-and-ins against each other, and instead they're playing against players that have a lot on the line themselves, though. Simon, tell us about what's on the line for Kentaro Yamamoto.
Kentaro Yamamoto is basically playing for his right to go first, and he wins a pro point if he wins this match.
Go first in the top 4.
Yes, if he gets up to 31 points, then he'll most likely beat Yuya on tiebreakers, even if Yuya wins. And then, of course, if Patrick wins, he can't catch him. But being first or second after Swiss is great for being on the play in the top 4. Okay,
and of course, the pro point on the line as well. Interesting start here, you guys. We've got 2 Seder Wayfinders. One of them milled away 2 Sidisi whips from Kentaro Yamamoto. Wow. Meanwhile, Shahar Shenhar has a Hornet Queen in his graveyard now.
Yeah, edge Shahar out of that, right?
Yeah, how big of a deal is that, Simon, having 2 whips in the yard? Obviously, you can only have 1 on the battlefield. You only need 1 at any given time. Are they going to be disappearing in game 1 here?
This is going to make it much easier for Shahar to build a game plan that revolves around drawing out the game. That's the key thing here. And Sidisi is already a great card because it puts on pressure for the early game, while at the same time, giving you a tremendous late game resource in your graveyard.
So we've also got one of our matches is already, one of our games is already finished in the feature match area here. William Huey Jensen is up a game over Yuya Watanabe. Now, Yuya already has his seat in the top 4.
Yeah, but just like Yamamoto, he wants a pro point, and he wants to be on have the choice of play draw in the top 4. So, mana troubles for Yuya, and Huey was able to beat him up pretty quick.
Yeah, so we have this situation where Sean McLaren is hoping that Shahar loses.
Yep.
William Jensen is hoping that Shahar and Sean lose, and then we have Sam Black who's hoping that all of the above lose. And then it's a win and in.
Okay.
Pretty much.
All right, so there's a Thoughtseize, and Yamamoto's taking his time here.
I will say, though, that once you get past Shahar's tiebreakers, the others are close enough that they'd be sweating the top 4 announcement.
Yeah, nothing is set in stone here.
Other than Shahar's odds, technically not a strict win and in, but the chance of his breakers moving are lots of zeros and a 1.
So does that mean that Shahar either needs to win this match or lose and have all 3 of the others lose as well?
You know, you're absolutely right. If all 4 of these guys lose, then somebody gets in on 8 and 6. And if that happens, it will be Shahar, because his breakers are by far the best. Although I guess there's some minuscule chance that Yuki Ichikawa is actually drawing live, and there's a 5th guy.
Which is funny because it's then not one of the others clearly because they are worse in breakers, but there might be somebody joining the ranks of the 8 wins and getting there.
How good have the Japanese players been this week, though?
Incredible. They have been smashing.
2 have already clinched, and Ichikawa is playing to get somewhere around 5th-ish.
I realized it around Khans of Tarkir, and we have a second Thoughtseize.
Right, so the first one took Murderous Cut after all, and the second one is going to take away a Courser of Crewfix. He's taking the strategy of letting Shahar have a Sidisi, but knowing that he's going to strand another one in his hand. So Shahar's going to play a Temple of Malady, ship the card to the bottom. No play here for Shahar. And speaking of Sidisi, here she is. Going to look at the top 3 here, see if we hit a creature for Yamamoto. We do, and it's actually a really nice one to hit. A second copy of Sidisi, that means he won't be drawing that one. You'll see the graveyards are going to play a really important role in this match. Also, one thing that we've noticed after having covered these for a while now is that these can go long. We can see these games get pretty drawn out. They're very grindy. They're able to sort of keep chugging along, and thanks to the power of Whip of Erebos, the life totals can get out of control as well. We saw Huey Jensen won with like 150 life or something early in the day.
Yeah, something that can also get out of control is the triggers on Sidisi, because they are mandatory. So if you aren't careful enough and you mill too many cards, you are the one that dies because of an empty library.
How early are the players going to consider that kind of thing? You know, is it fairly inevitable that they get to that point, or is it not?
No, not necessarily, especially with the 2 whips that have been milled for Yamamoto. I think that Yamamoto wants to be as aggressive as possible. His late game is just naturally looking weaker because of that.
You see a Sultai Charm there. That's a nice thing to have against a Whip of Erebos.
He was clearly hoping to also put a creature into his graveyard with that trigger.
Right. But he didn't. That would have also triggered Sidisi and netted him an extra zombie token.
So we do know that Shahar has a second Sidisi in his hand.
Yeah, and Kentaro also knows that. Well, there's all the creatures.
Yeah, but doesn't make a difference if you mill 1 or 3.
All at once.
Yeah, there is no hesitation here. Yamamoto just gets rid of the first Sidisi because he knows he wants to be attacking, and that only works if you trade off. Well, if you don't want to trade off Sidisi, you have to Murderous Cut.
Yeah, and since Yamamoto knows that Shahar has a second copy, Shahar would be pretty excited to trade the Sidisi he has on board for an opposing Sidisi so that he can get that other one.
Did we resolve the Sidisi trigger?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's got a zombie there.
Wow, since like Yuki Ichikawa has won his first game, taking down Sam Black.
So Sam Black's chances are dwindling.
They have taken a big hit with that game loss for sure. We're going to keep an eye on all of the matches in the feature match area. We have 4 players who are live to make the top 4. We've already got 3 players in the top 4, including one of the ones in our feature match here. Kentaro Yamamoto from Japan, he's in. So, looks like Huey Jensen's a little slow out of the gate there. In the second game, he had a mold of 6 and is stumbling on mana. Again, just keeping an eye on our other matches for you as well. And here is that second copy of Sidisi for Shahar Shenhar.
Pretty close to a strict mirror match here. These guys, if you look down the lists, very similar numbers, right down to the like 3 whips, 2 Doomwake Giants, 3 Hornet Queens. The one difference, the big difference, and you heard Shahar talk about this in the interview, he's got 2 Ashioks.
Right.
That could give him an edge. Yeah, 2 Ashioks in the main deck. Yeah, I've mostly been talking about the main decks. He's only got 1 Soul of Innistrad. Yamamoto has a second Soul and a Reclamation Sage, where Shahar has those Ashioks. So, bit of an edge to Shahar there.
You were talking about it already, Simon, that if it does come down to decking at some point down the line, those Ashioks certainly speed that along nicely.
Which is part of why they're so good. Not only because you get a creature at some point. So we see that Yamamoto is still trying to be as aggressive as possible here. The problem is that even if you kill the second Sidisi that Shahar played, attacking with your own 3/3 is not a great plan against 2 zombies. So
here's Murderous Cut, though, for Yamamoto to kill the second copy of Sidisi. So they've both been murdered.
Yeah, I can't see that you want to expose your Sidisi to a double block here.
Right. So Shahar says, sure, I'll take it. He wants to keep both of his zombies alive. They're the only thing holding back that Sidisi right now. And he finds a Doomwake Giant off the top. Well, that's a nice blocker, if anything else. Yamamoto has been aggressively using his removal.
Yamamoto is in fact only left with Soul of Innistrad and Hornet Queen, 2 great late game cards, but nothing that is really good at punching through damage in this spot. Also, the damage that you deal is so easily compensated for by a Whip of Erebos that it really feels like you're running against the wall.
So this is interesting. Shahar's going to attack with both of his zombies, hoping that Sidisi jumps in front so that his Doomwake Giant comes online and can actually finish off Sidisi. I don't think that Kentaro is going to buy it.
No, I think that's a good play because he saw that he had this option. I don't think it's a line that you take because you think your opponent is likely to.
I mean, this is risky play for Shahar if he does play the Doomwake Giant, right? If it were to die, he could be facing a lot of damage and an additional Sidisi trigger as well. So Shahar's got to be careful. The Doomwake Giant dies to Murderous Cut. It also dies to Sultai Charm.
Yep. So he would be exposing himself to 7 points of damage.
Yes, and an additional trigger. So
Yamamoto, by the way, when that Doomwake Giant came down, Seder Wait, he was already expecting it. I mean, as soon as Shahar made that attack, Yamamoto clearly saw exactly what Shahar had in his hand. It was planning to do.
Which is one of the beauties of watching high-level Magic being played.
Yes.
You actually see that people know what's up. I saw Sam Black cast a Wingmate Rock into his graveyard against Shahar because he knew that Disdainful Stroke was happening.
Okay, so Soul of Innistrad is revealed after Yamamoto plays a Courser of Krufix. He does not, in fact, have a removal spell to get rid of the Doomwake Giant. So Shahar, one step closer to being stabilized here. And maybe even just taking over this race?
Yeah, Yamamoto down to 7.
Is he down to 7?
And the threat of just casting another enchantment here, triggering Doomwake Giant's Constellation and ability.
Which is exactly what's happening. Courser of Krufix, of course, is also an enchantment, so Doomwake gets triggered. It's not going to actually kill anything here. If he could play another enchantment, then he could wipe away the 2 zombies.
Yeah, but he only has Seder Wayfinders.
He's got Wayfinders, but he's going to get to clear away this this land on top of his library and hope to find something better for next turn.
Ashiok also really good at these cursor mirrors where you kind of get to well, influence what kind of cards your opponents can draw and cannot draw.
Right.
Hasn't been relevant yet, but we might see it in the sideboarded games maybe.
So Shahar takes the Opulent Palace from the Wayfinder, and now he does see a decent spell there, Murderous Cut on top of his library. He's got a second copy of Wayfinder in his hand if he would rather not draw that.
Seems like a better draw than that Mana Confluence.
I agree. And it looks like, yes, he just attacked with everything he could. All the creatures without summoning sickness are in the zone here. And remember, Yamamoto's creatures all have -1/-1 until end of turn as well. So yeah, his blocks can get complicated. Yamamoto, this is a lethal attack.
One of the best blocks that Yamamoto has is a Cursor and a 1/1 zombie on a zombie token. But that effectively only trades zombies. So you aren't even getting value out of it. It's just you aren't getting blown out. So it's now time to chump block. It's time to maybe trade off CDC, which you definitely don't want. But have you seen Yamamoto's hand? It's Soul of Innistrad and Hornet Queen.
Yeah.
And the top of his deck is Soul of Innistrad. If his Cursor of Krufix doesn't reveal a land that comes into play untapped, he is not casting a spell next turn.
Wow. Also, Shahar Shenhar does have a backup plan here, too. He can play the other Seder Wayfinder from his hand and have an additional blocker if he feels like he needs it. He's at 10, though, and definitely is the aggressor. It feels like they've sort of both felt like they were the aggressor at different points during this game. I mean, Yamamoto was being pretty assertive in the early stages, clearing away the Sidisi's, but he's found himself behind in the damage race and now facing a big attack from Shahar.
Yamamoto cleared away the Sidisi's, but then he couldn't attack with his own Sidisi because trading it off with a zombie token would not have been what he wanted to do. And then he was basically out of gas when the Doomwake Giant joined the party. he doesn't have the mana for his more expensive cards, and none of these players has a whip. So this is one of the rare games where there is no whip, so life totals are actually hugely important.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very, very fair game, you know, considering what we normally see where people are getting cards back from their graveyard, making tokens all over the place, gaining huge swaths of life. This is
it's like, oh, the Thoughtseize costing 2 life matters. The pain land damage matters.
Right.
And Cursor of Krufix matters for not only for life gain, but also because of the advantage it generates.
Okay, so it looks like just one zombie is going to get blocked. And that's going to let Shahar get in there for 6 and drop Yamamoto to 1. Wow. Yamamoto, normally you want to have these over-the-top type spells in this matchup, but he's actually
he needs to
stuck
reveal
with
a land.
3 of them in his hand, and he
Does
doesn't
not
find
reveal
it.
a land.
Yeah. So then,
Wow.
if he passes the turn here, he's really
just dead?
Yeah, he's just bluffing a spell then.
Yes, that's it.
If Shahar goes for it, attacks with everything.
Oh, sure. Attack
that's
with
a nice
CDC.
line.
Take another shot at finding a land.
And also
generate
making
a zombie.
Yeah.
Probably.
But he gets a zombie.
Oh, guaranteed, yeah. 3rd whip into the yard. If this game goes long, he will not ever get Whip of Erebos into play.
And he does not find a land. He finds a replacement Courser. And Shahar has some pretty easy blocks here.
Shahar is allowing his opponent to kill one of his lethal attackers here.
Yeah,
well, he doesn't know they're lethal, though. He doesn't know that Kentaro has actual 3 blanks in his hand. Like, the odds of that are small enough. I think Shahar's right to kill the Sidisi. I mean, he's probably winning anyway. He's got Murderous Cut, which means he's got a lethal attack if he wants it. I like Shahar's line there.
Okay, well, here's the Satyr Wayfinder. Quick update as well. Patrick Chapin up a game over Sean McLaren on the back table as well. Again, Patrick Chapin is in the top 4. McLaren is fighting. But Patrick Chapin has a pro point and the right to play first on the line here. And he's looking to take it with a Game 1 victory.
Yeah, and the fact that every matchwin gives you a pro point really means that all these players want to win all of their matches.
Right. So does Shahar cut something and then swing for lethal?
Yeah, I think he just cuts the Courser and just attacks. He's not even giving up that much in that attack anyway.
Exactly. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, looks like that's the
line. And I
line.
thought it would have been even safer if you had a 1-1 in play.
Yeah, but you're not counting on this working. Like, he gets to present lethal anyway.
Right. He also strands that Courser on top of the library and makes it so that Kentaro can't cast the Soul of Innistrad.
Kentaro's got nothing.
And he has nothing. So Shahar Shenhar does, in fact, win the first game. Remember, Shahar is essentially playing a 1-for-1 because, a win-in because of his tiebreakers. We'll be back in just a moment.
Outfit your Magic collection with the newest Khans of Tarkir accessories from Ultra Pro. You can see the full array of card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and portfolios of your favorite Magic artwork at ultrapro.com. Friday Night Magic expands to all formats starting in 2015. Get ready for Commander, Legacy, or even Conspiracy drafts at Friday Night Magic. Check out your local store for details, and remember to tell your friends Friday night is about to get even better. Visit magic.wizards.com/FNM for more information.
All right, back in the feature match area. We are in the last round before the cut to the top 4, and we have 4 players in our feature match area who are technically live to make it into the last slot remaining.
But none of them are paired against each other.
That's right.
Crazy.
So they actually can look around and see how their competition is doing.
So we're jumping in here on Yuya Watanabe, who is in the top 4, versus William Huey Jensen, who is not. Now, Huey, though, is up a game over Yuya. And I think you guys are correct. I think they're going to be doing a whole lot of looking over their shoulder to see what's going on. You know, Shahar Shenhar is really the one in the driver's seat, as he's got the best tiebreakers by a significant margin, meaning that if he's able to finish off his match against Yamamoto, he can essentially clinch it and put himself far ahead of the field that he doesn't have to care, you know, if Huey wins his match or anybody else.
Yamamoto's got a lot of new friends this round.
I can't remember a constellation like that where there are 4 people in contention, but none of them is playing each other. It's like, are you winning? Okay, no, great. Are you winning? No.
It is very unique. I haven't seen this before either. It's quite interesting. Here's Hero's Downfall to take down Chandra Pyromaster, leaving an Ascension and 2 tokens on the battlefield for Watanabe. Watanabe is at 12 life.
Yuya's deck's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love
Jeskai tokens.
But the Chandra is super sweet, right? Because you have the grindy matchups. It is a non-creature spell triggering Prowess or Jeskai Ascendancy in this case, while also generating all this value if it gets to stick around.
It's also one of the ways that you can start to pick apart the remnants of a Hornet Queen.
Yeah, just 5 turns.
Yeah, I mean, you plus it, they get to attack, you know, it kind of attracts the attention, and you can eventually at least pick them off. I mean, there's so few cards. I saw Sam Black earlier was playing Arc Lightning just to try to mitigate some of what you get from a Hornet Queen.
Yeah, and he kept it in after boarding, too.
All right, so speaking of Sam Black, he is equalized against Yuki Ichikawa on our side table as well. Sam Black, interestingly, he's playing down this round. Yuki is at 7 and 6. Sam is at 8 and 5. So Sam has a lot on the line here, and he needs to win one more game to keep his hopes alive for that last top 4 seat. But a lot has to go right to get Sam in there. Plan A, though, is
got like
winning.
$2,000 on the line too.
Absolutely.
Top 8 makes, I think, $2,000 more than top 16.
And then, of course, that pro point looming at all times as well. So now 4 soldier tokens for Watanabe as Jensen tries to find a way to stabilize here. He has multiple methods in the deck. They're in his sideboard, but we are in game 2, so I'm assuming that they're there. He keeps finding his 1-for-1 removal when really what he wants are Bile Blights and Drowning Sorrows.
His hand is 2 Murderous Cuts. At the top of his library is Hero's Downfall. And your opponent is casting Raise the Alarms.
So this is Erase to take down. Yeah, this is going to get weird.
Erase takes out the Courser and triggers the Ascendancy to turn those into 2/2s.
You have to start killing tokens.
He's going to have to start using Murderous Cuts on tokens.
I think he knows it. He just doesn't want to accept the fact.
I don't want to accept it.
Oh, here's Stoke the Flame. How about their 3/3s? And you take 4.
Wow.
3, 6, 9, 12. Just 16 this turn. That's all. You ready to start killing my tokens?
That's insane. This is what Chapin was saying when we were talking to him earlier as well. That this deck can just do 15 out of nowhere. Well, in this case, it was going to be 16. And there we go. Murderous Cut, Murderous Cut. Just so Huey can stay alive. He's got another removal spell on top of the library here with a Hero's Downfall.
The incredible thing about the Jeskai Ascendancy is not only do you get to untap your creatures and they grow, so you basically have a super anthem, but you also get to draw discard the whole time. So you're never running out of gas, really.
Yeah, there's no combo in Yugi's deck, too. I mean, a lot of these Ascendancy decks were like, oh, I'm a combo deck. Oh, I'll put tokens in so they have a backup plan, or I'll go Blue-White Heroic, but with the combo. Yugi's like, no, just the tokens in the Ascendancy. And that is plenty good enough to get it done.
And that gets it done here as he equalizes with Jensen. So we're going to get a game 3 out of this match as we transition to the wide shot here to take a look at our feature match area. Now, if you look, it's a different type of setup than we normally have because these aren't just straight win-ins between 2 players. Shahar over to the right is live. On the other table, it's Sam Black who is live. On the back table, Chapin's already in, so it's Sean McLaren who's trying to get in. And then, of course, the one that we just left was Yuya Watanabe, also already in the top 4, and with Huey being the hopeful one. Let's jump over to our back table where we just talked about Sean McLaren versus Patrick Chapin. Again, Chapin, he sealed the deal. He's in. He's playing for a pro point and the right to play first. McLaren is playing for his tournament life here.
Yeah, Patrick is the 1 seed with this win.
Sean McLaren, on the other hand, is the one who's most likely to make it after Shahar because of tiebreakers. I think that, yeah, Randy said it, there's definitely the chance for Huey to overtake McLaren, but if tiebreakers stay as they are, then Sean is definitely the second most likely to make it.
So in order for that to happen, Sean has to win this match, have Shahar lose his match.
And because Shahar is up a game.
Right, getting fairly unlikely here.
Shahar, if Shahar loses two in a row.
Yes, but remember, Sean McLaren's also down a game here against Chapin. So he needs a lot of things to go right to pull this out.
Which is good news for Huey.
Indeed, yes.
I can continue with this.
Yes. That story only has one more chapter. It ends with Sam Black being happy or sad, but...
Can't we go back to the infinitesimal chance of Ichikawa getting in at 8 and 6?
Yeah, that's the epilogue to that particular book. So, again, a lot going on in the feature match area due to the nature of a 24-person tournament. It kind of mixes things up from what we would normally see. And frankly, it makes things awesome. This is just super tense down there because we actually have 4 people live.
Yeah, I agree. This is cool.
This is pretty cool. And I love the fact that there's a pro point on the line for each of these matches. You know, we talked to Chapin about it in an interview with Brian David Marshall just a little while ago, and Chapin said, look, I don't get out to as many GPs as I used to, and I'm trying to make platinum. I need these pro points. That, you know, now that he's locked up where he wants to be as far as the top 4 goes, he still has other considerations for this tournament. In the meantime, he's going to take down a Siege Rhino with an Obzon Charm.
To put this into perspective, every match win here is already a decent GP finish. So
yes,
and if you win in the top 4, gaining 2 pro points, that's a solid GP finish. So we are talking about a whole weekend spent playing Magic, and you aren't even guaranteed the pro points.
That's right. Yeah, top 64 finish at a GP.
Chapin's got 10 wins already. It's basically like a top 32 at the Pro Tour.
Yeah, that's how
it's like
you
an
can also
extra
look at it.
good Pro Tour finish for Pat.
Wow. And he's looking to keep adding to it as well.
Yeah, he's got 5 more potentially.
He can start dreaming of his next chance at becoming the world champion right after this tournament.
You think he's going to get to Sunday and call this a qualifier for next year's Worlds?
If he doesn't win. Or even, actually, if he does win, then it's really a qualifier, right?
Oh, yeah, no, he clinches next year's Worlds.
Yeah, you do get a seat. All right, it looks like we are going to jump back to our main feature match where you guys were just talking about qualifying for the next Worlds by winning the first one. Well, that's exactly what Shahar did, and now he is fighting, trying to get into the top 4. He has the luxury of having his fate in his hands. If he wins this match, his tiebreakers are good enough that it should set him apart from the pack, and he should be in. He's also up a game here against Kentaro Yamamoto. Yamamoto, already in the top 4, is playing for what we just talked about, the pro point and perhaps the ability to choose whether to play or draw maybe a notch higher. So this is going to be it. If Shahar can win this one,
man, what a
he's going to be in the
storyline.
top 4. Yeah, back
the
to
defending
back.
champ trying to defend his title. Nobody's ever won Worlds twice. Wait, 20 years, we have 20 different world champions. No one's won it twice.
Shahar would love to put his name on that list. Here is Thoughtseize from Shahar on turn 2, and he's going to reveal Doomwake Giant, Reclamation Sage, and Thoughtseize. And this, of course, like all Thoughtseize decisions, is going to depend heavily on what's in Shahar's hand.
No, but Yamamoto already made a decision here by delaying his Thoughtseize, knowing that Shahar, without any mana accelerants, was unlikely to present an early threat. But Shahar is now taking advantage of Yamamoto's, well, let's say, not very exciting hand by taking the Thoughtseize, and that way he's protecting potentially, yeah, turn 3 Ashiok, Randy.
Oh, wow. Ashiok here, especially against a board of nothing that can attack, seems pretty nice.
That declining that Thoughtseize might end up costing Yamamoto. And then this might actually be a quick game.
It has cost him dearly in the early stages. Now, that doesn't mean that Yamamoto can't just untap and find, you know, something like a Hero's Downfall. But right now,
the Farika in from the sideboard.
Yes.
The thing is that he is holding answers, but he's holding an answer to a Whip of Erebus in Reclamation Sage and an answer to token armies or just ground attackers in Doomwake Giant. He's not holding an answer to Ashiok, and Doomwake Giant, I think, is great on defense. If you want to kill an Ashiok with it, you're going to have your work cut out for you.
That's right. And
that's the plan.
I've also seen that Shahar has a second copy of Ashiok in hand as well. So even if he's not able to defend this first one, or maybe, let's say, Yamamoto does draw something like a Hero's Downfall, Shahar can immediately follow up with another one. In the meantime, he's going to keep plussing here, and this one reveals 3 lands from Yamamoto.
No 4th land for Shahar? Is that where we're at?
He hasn't played it yet. Reclamation Sage to kill your attacker. Simon, you just mentioned that you didn't think it was going to be able to get there, but it did.
The 2-1 striking a blow for all 1 toughness creatures. Down goes Doomwake Giant.
Who's favored in a battle? Doomwake Giant or a 2-1 creature?
Yeah. In this case, the David happened to be here, and Doomwake Giant finds himself in the graveyard with another great tempo play there for Shahar to protect his Ashiok, who's now already at 7 loyalty.
And not only do you get the 2-for-1, but you also have a blocker for Yamamoto's next attacker, as long as it's not Doomwake Giant.
Right, and if you look, Yamamoto did not play a next attacker. He passed the turn back. This could get out of hand quickly.
As long as Yamamoto doesn't draw a Hero's Downfall, he might just not have the time to kill Ashiok.
And like I said, even if he does, Shahar has a backup Ashiok in hand. So there's Farika for Shahar. And it looks like his sideboard plan may be working out quite nicely. We know that Shahar's playing those in the main deck as well, the Ashioks.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's
third
not really
one
a
on the
sideboard
board
plan, right?
Yeah,
it's also a main deck plan.
2 in the main, third one on the board.
Right, he's got 1 extra.
So maybe this does, if this wins him this matchup, it could be hugely relevant for the top 4.
That's a great point.
He also likes it against Absan, which is Patrick Chapin.
That's the big difference, right? His list has the 2 Ashioks, where Yamamoto's playing like a Reclamation Sage and something else in those slots.
No, I haven't seen Ashioks in decks from the other teams, the Japanese deck or any other.
Wow, can Shahar pull this off? He looks like Yamamoto just had another quick read of Ashiok.
I would, if somebody had asked me which Planeswalker was most likely to decide this tournament, I wouldn't have said Ashiok.
Ashiok would be low on my list as well. Quick update. Huey Jensen versus Yuya Watanabe. They're going to game 3. Huey had to mulligan to 6, so not great news for Huey fans, but even worse news for Yuya Watanabe fans. He's on 5 cards to start, with that tokens deck too.
Yeah. Well, sounds like he still pulled off a turn 3 Rabble Master.
Okay. I'm sure that Huey has a bevy of removal spells waiting for it, but we will see. All right, so here is another blocker, basically, a Satyr Wayfinder there for Shahar as he continues to tick Ashiok up. Now, Simon, is the plan with Ashiok to just plus it forever? Like, does he ever consider firing off the ultimate at some point?
I think the -10, your opponent can play around quite well. It is going to be good to prevent any kind of Whip of Erebos shenanigans that could just be too powerful. But you're also there with an active Farika, so there's really not much that can happen from the graveyard. And I like just plussing here simply because that way you do put your opponent on the fastest clock with regards to decking.
Yeah, and especially with that backup Ashiok in hand, because even if something goes wrong, if he's put a big dent in Yamamoto's library, he can fire off another Ashiok, get at least 1 more activation, and keep that pressure going. Shahar does have Ashiok up to 11 loyalty, so it does become an option if he'd like to go ultimate and still keep Ashiok around, no less.
Sidisi misses.
Wow. Yamamoto just can't find a way here.
So I looked at Yamamoto's sideboard, and he has 4 Disdainful Stroke, which is something that he wants in the grindy matchups. But other than that, I only see 4 Reaper of the Wilds, an Unravel the Ether, a Farika, a Dig Through Time. I just think that Ashiok was not on their radar.
It looks like it.
Yeah, and Shahar's deck is basically the same, except that he has 3 Ashiok afterboarding.
And it looks like he is further solidifying his position by putting a bunch of creatures in front of Ashiok as he just activated Farika. They're getting a snake, and there it is. Wow. And this is going to be a murderous cut here from Yamamoto. And these creatures are fairly the same. So Sam Black did not win his match. Yuki Ichikawa,
he will finish in the top 8.
Yeah, was a was a full game, a full match win behind Sam Black, but he defeats him 2-1. Great showing from Japan, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
In the tournament.
Absolutely.
2 of the 3 players are already in the top 4, and the other one's going to be in the top 8.
Shahar, by the way, is activating the Ashiok Ultimate.
Yeah,
here.
which just resolved and forced Yamamoto to respond with the Murderous Cuts, which does give Shahar the safety of knowing that there was actually nothing scary going on.
And remember, he gets to keep Ashiok around to keep ticking up here as well. Now, Sidisi on the other side can create a board state pretty quickly.
I honestly think that he was just playing around Disdainful Stroke.
Yeah, I think he wanted to make sure he resolved his whip.
Yeah,
he wanted to make sure there's no answers for the whip.
Right. Disdainful
Clear
Stroke
your hand.
was a card that his opponent was very likely to be holding because he hadn't been given Yamamoto a target for it.
Wow, so now Farika is also live, and Shahar gets to attack as well. So he is hitting from multiple axes as he had the Murderous Cut to take down Sidisi, and Kentaro Yamamoto is left with 1 card in his graveyard, no cards in hand, and he's just top decking versus Shahar with 2 cards in hand, more creatures, an active god, and a Planeswalker plus the whip. Shahar with a dominating performance, and that's going to do it. Shahar Shenhar defeats Kentaro Yamamoto and is looking like he's going to join him in the top 4 to try to become back-to-back world champ.
The defending champ continues to defend.
Now, another thing about Shahar is that he's playing in the World Magic Cup as well.
True.
For Israel. So
he's a dream chaser.
He is a dream chaser, and he keeps that dream alive as it looks like he's in. Wow. Shahar Shenhar.
Yeah, no, the double has only been done once. Winning both the individual worlds and the team worlds been done exactly one time.
Who did that?
John Finkel. Johnny Magic.
All right, let's jump back to our back table. Patrick Chapin versus Sean McLaren. So last we saw, Patrick Chapin had won the first game versus McLaren, who is on Obzon mid-range, as is Chapin. I see a couple of Planeswalkers down there below Chapin. I'm assuming those are just exposed cards from maybe a Thoughtseize earlier that Chapin's just leaving up. I don't think that there's no dice on them. They do not have dice
on them, yeah.
Yeah, so they're not
Chapin is
living.
not a lands in front guy. So.
No.
Looks like the 2 cards on the top of Sean's graveyard are Thoughtseize.
Yeah, it's definitely exposed from a Thoughtseize.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was the time that Patrick chose to hide his cards again. Not from us, though, thankfully. So one thing I find funny this round is that there's 3 matches where 3 players are playing for like a pro point and who gets to go first in the top 4. But their 3 opponents were playing for the potential to even be in the top 4. So the pressure situation is just really unbalanced. Patrick Chapin can say, well, I'm playing this, but if I'm losing, I'm playing on Sunday.
Who does that favor?
Well, it favors the person that's playing for less, I think.
You think that having less pressure is better?
I think so. Well, I think there might be players who get sloppy when playing under less pressure, but I don't think that's the case for the 3 players that we have in the top 4.
Patrick was at 1 when we got here, by the way, and draw phase didn't help. He's ready to go to game 3.
Yeah, they're going to get a game 3 there as Sean McLaren is able to equalize, leaving us with just 2 matches left in our feature match area. Shahar Shenhar has defeated Kentaro Yamamoto 2-0. Really kind of crushed him in the second game as well. But why don't we jump over and take a look at what William Huey Jensen versus Yuya Watanabe is up to. Now, this is another of the same type of match that we had in all of ours, which is Yuya in the top 4, Huey fighting to get in the top 4. Yeah. Now, he's probably
he's probably 5th with a win here, but he gets a sweat.
He does get a little
He gets to imagine the hypothetical where somehow Shahar's tiebreakers collapse.
Right.
I guess Shahar's got 3 copies of Patrick Chapin figured into his tiebreakers, so I'm sure Chapin has to lose for this catastrophe to happen.
Uh-oh, but it looks like Huey Jensen has just fallen to 3, and it looks like Watanabe is putting the afterburners on here.
Yes, it does.
As he's adding to an already impressive board state with Elspeth, Sun's champion.
Doombrick Giant.
Yeah, and a Whip of Erebos. It looks like he has the tools to get out, but it might be too late here. There's the Doomwake Giant. But that's going to clear away
that means
most of the chaff.
Elspeth gets rid of the Giant.
Yes, and then that is actually 4 damage that he would be taking here. He also has a Jeskai Ascendancy.
Of course he does.
And Yuya Watanabe defeats William Huey Jensen. So Huey does not earn that sweat. He has a solid finish here at the World Championship.
You know, he's actually got a pretty big sweat anyway. Now he's got a sweat for top 8.
Right, which is a big monetary difference.
versus 3,000.
Right.
$5,000 for top 8, $3,000 for top 16. So that's a sweat.
Yeah, Huey's a full-time Magic professional. These things matter in a big way.
Now that Yuya has won, Patrick knows that he needs to win if he wants to be playing first in all potential top 4 matches.
Great point. We know that Yamamoto is the 3 seed, and Yuya and Patrick are 1, 2 in some order.
Yeah, I don't know about the breakers between the 2 Japanese players.
Well, Yamamoto lost and Yuya won.
Oh yeah.
So they're no longer tied. Patrick is the 1 seed with a win. Yuya is the 1 seed from 1-3. Remember when Yuya was 1-3?
Yes, I do.
He was 0-2 and he was 1-3.
And he said he was pretty relaxed at that point.
He did. He did say that. He wasn't worried.
Maybe that has to be your secret.
You know what else, though?
Unbelievable.
He's also looking to be the first guy to win Worlds twice. Right, that Players' Championship from a couple years ago is now considered the World Championships from 2012.
Yes.
So nobody's won Worlds twice. We're going to have 2 people trying to do that on Sunday.
We are 50% to have that happen.
That's
just
insane.
4 days' time. Wow, that is absurd. I did not think of it that way, but
No,
that's
I didn't
totally
either.
true.
And Patrick Chapman is not too far off from a repeat performance with his finals appearance and like.
Yeah, he's finished second at Worlds.
After Proto Journey into Nyx, basically announcing that you're there to win the World Championships would also be just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, this storyline with Chapin has been really fun to follow.
Yeah, all these storylines are great.
Yes.
And then you've got the Cinderella.
Still 60?
You remember who beat Pat Chapin in that World Final, by the way? It was the first Israeli World Champion.
Uri Peleg.
Uri Peleg. So he's lost the World's Final to an Israeli before.
So are you saying, Manny, there could be another Israeli champion this year again, beating Patrick Chapin in the final?
That's what I'm suggesting. It's going to be a fun Sunday. That's what I'm saying.
That Sunday is going to be crazy. Chapin's thinking about whether he wants to keep here.
And yeah, Yamamoto is the Cinderella, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody expected him to be in this top 4.
He's so quiet. He just continually performs so well.
I saw Josh Bennett talking to him at the end of the draft. He 3-0'd Pod 1, right? He's the guy that won Pod 1 in Kanza Tarkir draft this morning, and the Japanese just drafted circles around the rest of the field. Simon was talking about this earlier, and I completely agree with him. They looked great. And so Josh is asking him, are you starting to think about top 4? Like I think he was tied for first with Patrick at the time. And he's like, no, standard is coming up. He's like, oh, do you like your standard? Like, no, my standard deck is terrible. Not thinking about top 4. I can't possibly win in standard.
I'm hoping to win a match.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Wow. And there's Sean McLaren over there of Canada. He will be aware of what's happened. It won't affect anything here.
Yeah, he's the one who's now playing for 5th.
Which is probably
5th, but getting this way.
Which is not a good feeling.
Now, but is he also playing for top 8? Like, if he loses, is he unlikely to make top 8?
I haven't really done the math on where the cut is for 8th, but yes, if he wins, he's definitely in the top 8. If he loses, then I don't know where the line falls.
Right, so he could be at risk of that, too. So still a lot on the line.
It's at least a pro point in $2,000. It's also, the sweat that somehow Shahar's tiebreakers fall apart.
Yeah. If he loses to the #1 seed, then at least his breakers should be really good.
Also true.
Okay, so let's get some mana bases set up for these 2 players. Both of them on Obzon mid-range. But this is game 3, so we have sideboards in play here, and these mid-range decks can push different directions depending on how your sideboard's built and what you think you need to defeat your opponent.
We already saw Sean have some plans for that. More Nissa Worldbreakers in his sideboard, then the Dune Blast, one in his main, one in his sideboard, even more Master Removal spells. And the real question is, do you just try to grind it out with cursor advantage? Do you try to clear the board from time to time? And then who does have the Planeswalker advantage?
Right. All right. An early threat here for Patrick Chapin, mainly threatening to get ahead on cards. We've seen, though, that Sean McLaren has nothing but respect for Courser of Krufix. It can kind of fall into the shadows because we've been playing with it for a while now. But Sean McLaren absolutely does not agree with that, and he's got his own.
So from now on, both players will know what each other draws. So not as much hidden information as you usually have. But the cards that are in Patrick's hand, one of them is Liliana Vess, and that card has impressed me. When Patrick just tutored twice, and you just have this chain of Siege Rhinos.
Yes. Has Patrick attacked here?
It looks like he's representing Absent Charm.
Seems like a good way to sneak into damage. Chapin doesn't have it, right?
No.
He's just...
Nope.
Sean can't block, though.
No? Just
No way,
bluffing.
you can't block there.
No. And Chapin knows it.
Exactly.
All right, did Chapin gain his life? There we go. And there's Siege Rhino.
Oh.
So a nice little sequence there for Chapin, eking out an extra 2 damage and following up with what was called by him the best card in Standard, Siege Rhino.
Both players, in a sense, are equal on tempo until one of them misses a beat. So Sean wants to go untapped land Siege Rhino, which he can do.
Yes.
And then we have a true mirror match, right?
I mean, on the battlefield, it is card for card.
So Patrick is threatening a Johnny next turn.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if Sean can
he keep
actually
up with
answer
that? I mean,
that has to be really tough, because that's where like an additional Cursor of Krufix doesn't help you. Read the Bones is rather slow. And the Siege Rhino mirror match is kind of dominated by Johnny, I would feel.
absolutely.
Yeah, you also don't want to play a grindy game against
Jeez.
it. I think that Cursor of Krufix and Planeswalkers are the deciding factor once you somehow equalize the Siege Rhino advantage.
Which always seems to equalize somehow.
Somehow, yeah.
Not always.
No,
But enough.
But those games are the ones where we don't get to commentate as much.
Right,
because
exactly.
if you just have the game where one person goes Siege Rhino, then, well, it's not a fair fight.
Now you move on to the next game.
It's just hard to construct a hand that your opponent can have where you can't interact with that.
The decks have also been designed to do that, right?
Right.
You do play all the Absent Charms, Heroes, Downfalls to have exactly that. And then it just comes down to threats and answers. It is, in a sense, it's very core Magic, very much core Magic, but with awesome, powerful cards. Like we heard Siege Rhino be compared to Bloodbraid Elf. We see the abilities on these Planeswalkers, and still the decision-making process. You see how long Patrick is taking here.
He's in a tough spot because if he wants to play his Ajani here, he wants to keep his Siege Rhino back to block, but if it were to die, he would be in a pretty awkward position where his Courser of Krufix would have to jump in front of Siege Rhino. Now, the good news is that he could take a hit because Ajani's loyalty is so high.
I think the Ajani and its potential, like which ability do you activate, is absolutely like one of the key decisions in this game.
Goes for cards.
He goes for cards,
value.
yeah, because he knows he's getting at least a Sorin here. That is what he ends up with.
Just make sure that your first Planeswalker finds a second one. And a third one.
Jeez.
He also has Liliana Vess, so
Yeah.
his Planeswalker count is through the roof. It's great that with a Johnny +1 on either ability, you're safe from the Siege Rhino alone. We talked about not being able to block Cursor of Krufix early on in the game. The 2 life points not really mattering, but Planeswalker loyalty is another topic.
Yes.
Do you just expose your Siege Rhino to a blowout Absent Charm here?
I mean, the other value from Patrick's attack there is that he's represented the Abzan Charm, right? Sean's
Yes.
got to put a above average chance that Patrick has Abzan Charm in his hand.
Given that both players know most of the cards, except for the few that were in their hands early on.
Right, because of the Courser's accrue fix.
Exactly. That's kind of what we've seen in the Curse of Crufix mirrors. If both players have it, you can keep count of basically every draw step.
Now, Sean McLaren, though, does have some spice in his hand as well. I see there's an Elspeth in his hand.
The utter end
cast it, though.
The utter end allows you to push through damage, but this is much more complicated than just, yeah, I have to take down this Ajani, because you have to consider what's going to happen next. There's going to be a Sorin. There's just if you don't get a board presence going and you spend all your turns attacking Planeswalker loyalty, you aren't going to win the game.
All right, McLaren's going to crack a fetch land here to get an untapped Plains.
Yeah, I think he didn't want to draw a second Elspeth there.
Right.
He'd also prefer to get a land off the top of his library with Courser.
So let's see if he meets with that goal.
In terms of getting board presence so that you can steadily attack Planeswalkers, does that mean you utter end the Siege Rhino? And then attack a Johnny for partial?
You can also do it during combat, since the Siege Rhino on your side has trample. Whatever blocks it can get utter-ended.
I'm honestly not sure, Randy. It's as long as the Siege Rhino sticks around, I don't see any effective attacking of Planeswalkers. And do you have enough 1-for-1 spells to deal with these Planeswalkers after your opponent has found one with a Johnny, is drawing the other one, and could just as easily have an Elspeth? He's actually holding a Liliana Vest, which might actually be scarier, because it's going to find more and more.
I mean, Sean's got an utter end in hand. He's got a Hero's Downfall on top. So he can kill 2 Planeswalkers. But yeah, I'd be pretty tempted to hit the Rhino.
Yeah, me too.
He's going to hit the Rhino.
It's not an easy decision, but I think you're setting yourself up to losing the game if you just try to
1-for-1 the Planeswalkers.
You would be trying to play Patrick's game, the game Patrick wants to play.
But Patrick ends up looking pretty good after this. Sure, he lost his Rhino, but it was for a 1-for-1, and he still gets to keep his Ajani, Mentor of Heroes.
For now.
For now. He's going to try to find some more friends eventually.
So,
does Patrick have any removal in his hand? Is it just all Planeswalkers?
He's got two Sorins and a Liliana. He does also have a Read the Bones and a Courser.
Yeah, but I mean, that means
no removal.
Siege Rhino is set up to kill a Planeswalker. I mean, Patrick can Read the Bones to draw the Hero's Downfall, and then ideally, if he comes up with a land as well,
which he should off of Read the Bones, right?
He should.
So, Read the Bones into Hero's Downfall, targeting the Siege Rhino.
Yeah, but he needs to find a black mana source.
But then you're losing a Johnny to a removal on Cursor.
Wow, it's Downfall.
Oh, that's interesting. Now he can put one of the downfalls down and try to find that untapped black mana source. Or he could just keep them both and say, all right, well, Johnny's going to go down.
Land?
It was 3 downfalls in a row.
Land.
Wow.
Because he pushed the other downfall to the bottom. His library was downfall.
All removal for days.
But did not come up with the land. No, that did not work out.
He has to...
Well, we'll see.
He can still hit an untapped Courser.
He gets another top deck, essentially, for the Courser.
Yeah, right. After having decided what to take with the Johnny.
Oh, he's got Urborg out as well, so it can just be any untapped land.
Yeah, black mana does not matter. Sean McLaren actually used that to his advantage when he tapped Windswept Heath on turn 4. All right. This is it.
Courser says...
Flip it, Chapin. What do you got?
Oh, there it is.
It's close.
Not close. Close, but not quite.
Not quite enough. And he's going to see a Thoughtseize with the Scry ability here. And it looks like he's going to keep it.
Yeah, but even if a Johnny goes down, it has generated such an advantage, and Patrick basically has the hand to deal with his opponent's board and play 5 walkers in a row.
Yeah, missing the land there is not devastating. It's just would have been better if he'd hit it.
Yeah, which makes me think that if you have so many good cards to play, if it was a bit greedy, but on the other hand, he was not really able to cast 2 spells.
Exactly. He had no ability to cast 2 spells. I like his line.
he's going to find land eventually. And he did have the scry from Beat the Bones, the draw steps, the reveal, and the Ajani too. So there was like playing a ponder to find land.
So yeah, it looks like he didn't actually keep the Thoughtseize though. He put that on the bottom and got an under end revealed instead. And here's McLaren seeing Temple of Melody.
And Patrick did get to put a land into play. It just came into play tapped.
Right.
And he's building up to where he can start playing 2 spells per turn.
There is Temple of Melody on top of Sean McLaren's deck. And he might be thinking about a similar line here because he's also facing the option of casting Read the Bones to look for Hero's Downfall. Opts not to, though.
He finds a second copy of Temple of Melody with a scry and ships that to the bottom, and now an Abzan Charm.
So this does mean that he's also not playing 2 spells each turn. It seems to me that he's on the plan of really only ever exposing 1 Courser of Krufix to the battlefield, and if your opponent doesn't deal with that, then you're generating great advantage. But if they are, you have the backup one. Because
all right,
life totals is not the most important thing here.
This turn ended up quite nice there for Sean, though, as he gets to kill Ajani, take out the Courser of Krufix, and seemingly be ahead for the moment, but knowing what's in Chapin's hand, he's just going to start windmilling Planeswalkers on the battlefield turn after turn.
He's got to deal with Siege Rhino first.
Yeah, and now we see the decision to other end Chapin's Siege Rhino really pay off. Yeah. Because if you didn't have that attacker, then you wouldn't have done anything this game. On the other hand, the fact that Chapin didn't find an untapped mana source did not cost him his Ajani. He would have lost Ajani anyway. It did cost him 4 extra life, though. Or, yeah, because he would have downfalled the Rhino.
Speaking of downfall, Chapin has a pair of those in his hand. He's going to have to use one on the Rhino at some point here. He's also got to consider taking out the Courser of Krufix before it gets out of hand. Do you consider killing the Courser of Krufix here, like, there?
No. You have so many Planeswalkers that you need to get the high-powered creatures.
So get the Rhino off and then start playing Planeswalkers.
At this stage, it's not looking like Sean has any chance of outvaluing Patrick Chapin. Like, if you're ahead, like, you have twice the number of cards.
Right.
And all the answers and the
going to be
threats.
generating virtual or direct card advantage as well. All right, so let's see what Sean McLaren comes up for this turn. He was pretty happy with that last one, I have to think. But he doesn't know what he's in for here. Now, it looks like McLaren's going to return the favor by attacking with his own Courser into Chapin's Courser, but this time it's not going to work, even if McLaren were to go for Abzan Charm, which he does have. Now, that's going to get interesting now. So that's going to take that down before blocks. And, yeah, Chapin's going to respect it and just take the 2. So even though they're both 2/4s, these coursers are kind of running by each other.
Not interested in fighting.
No.
Having the cursor in place is just so much more important than the 2 life. So there's just no reason to risk it. Hero's Downfall by Chapin was cast because Other End is not castable with 3 mana, but he does have a backup one for the Elspeth that Sean is most likely to play here.
All right, and there it is. Elspeth, Sun's champion, is going to come down, brings 3 soldier tokens with her, and Sean passes the turn back. So now the fireworks can start to begin for Chapin. He's got to manage the board here. Sean McLaren has been 1 threat ahead of him for the game, for the duration of the game, but Chapin has had the answers he's needed at every stage, and he has the answer he needs here as well. And once he finally gets the board clear of any urgent threats, he can start playing Planeswalkers. Chapin hemming and hawing here a little bit in our feature match area. He's been there plenty over the last 2 days. And he's going to play his land off of the Courser, revealing another land. And is Chapin reading the bones? He loves that card.
he probably has to discard if he does that.
Okay.
Doesn't care.
He can just Hero's Downfall main phase.
Yes. He knows that he's doing that anyway. So.
Right.
I just realized that we have Patrick Chapin, who won Proto Journey into Nyx with effectively Abzan. And we have Sean McLaren, who I think might be playing the first non-Jeskai deck in his life.
It could be.
Definitely.
So here's Hero's Downfall to take down Elspeth, Sun's champion.
Does feel like both players know what they're doing, though. It's really interesting which cards are important and how you have to maneuver around everything that could happen.
Sean continues to impress.
He does.
Second top 8 in Honolulu.
Both as a deck builder and as a player.
Right.
Like, it's not one of the two. It's really both.
All right, so still 3 soldier tokens left over from Elspeth, but Elspeth is in the bin. Now, McLaren does have a Thoughtseize in his hand now, so we can kind of see what's up on Chapin's side. He knows a lot of the cards in Chapin's hand, but there's definitely a few that he doesn't.
He also hasn't really had a chance to get rid of his opponent's Curse of Prefix, and at this stage, when your opponent has 7 lands, you know that it's kind of too late to delay their development, which he did last round very effectively with an early Thoughtseize. Now, Absent Charm has been bluffed multiple times by both players, and I think now they finally both found one.
Here's Read the Bones, though, for Sean McLaren.
More Read the Bones and an Elspeth. Is there any reason not to take Read the Bones?
To just keep chaining them together?
If you want to have a chance at winning the grindy long game, and life totals don't seem to be an issue, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Replacement Elspeth and the Read the Bones, and wow, now a Siege Rhino sitting on top of his library too, so a pretty nice sequence there for McLaren. A lot of action coming down the pipe here as well. We've got a real slugfest here in Game 3. Chapin maneuvering for position to start taking over the game with his Planeswalkers, but McLaren doing a good job of kind of fighting it off and even scratching his way back into the attrition fight with Read the Bones. Meanwhile, Chapin is at 13. McLaren's been able to pressure his life total a little bit.
Yeah, because of the fact that it's impossible to block against Absent Charm.
This is the 3rd time now that a Courser has just unabashedly attacked into another Courser, and we're 3 for 3 on no blocks.
At some point, one of the players will be able to pass with mana up, and then you can't run these shenanigans.
That's right.
I don't think Chapin is really scared for his life total here.
Okay, so Sean McLaren's going to play a second Read the Bones here and find a land as well. It's the Siege Rhino that he had on top. And wow, more gasoline here.
Yeah.
And this is a World Waker.
I think we had like a 7 or 8 to 3 card advantage for Chapin at some point. But Read the Bones is doing a great job at getting back into this game. And Nissa is the Planeswalker of choice for Sean McLaren. Whereas Patrick is going for Sorens and Ajanis.
Yeah, I mean, those Read the Bones just drew 4 spells for McLaren. His hand is stacked up now. But Chapin's is too. Let's not forget that. And you mentioned the tempo aspect of this, Simon, a little bit ago, where it's sort of, I'm ahead and I'm looking to stay ahead, because they just keep windmilling huge plays from this point on.
At the same time, none of them have a really dominant board position.
No.
So it's still a somewhat even game, where the number of cards drawn is one thing, but also like how many lands do you have available? What are the spells that you can play that your opponent really has to think hard about, and that don't just trade 1 for 1. Now, Elspeth, like counting strictly, left behind 3 soldier tokens, but the impact on the game of these soldier tokens has been 0.
Right.
So it is, in a sense, it was a 1 for 1 trade with Hero's Downfall. I think it's going to come down to who has the better plan. What is Patrick going to do with the Lilianaverse? What does Sean McLaren want to accomplish with Nissa Worldbreaker? if everything gets traded off, 4/4 trampling lands can close out a game pretty quickly.
Yes, they certainly do. All right, so Chapin looks like he's made his decision about what he wants to do for this turn, which is going to be the first turn of many very powerful turns upcoming. And it's Siege Rhino, the old standby.
When you have a Siege Rhino, it often makes sense to just play it.
Just play your Siege Rhino. Yeah, well, I think that Sean McLaren is going to be able to do the same on his turn.
I also like that now you have mana up, so you pretty much won't take any damage here. I would be surprised if that happens. Yeah, you heard it here first. If you have a Siege Rhino, it's often good to play it.
Hey, Randy's right.
I think Patrick Chapin agrees. Willie Adel agrees. We see it in Modern. I think that's really
a telling sign.
Point.
Yeah, Willie's taken to calling it Blood Braid Rhino.
It's not a bad comparison. I mean, how much mana costs this? Drain you for 3.
Yeah, it's a Blood Braid elf that flips over a lightning helix pointed at their face.
There you go. 2 gold mana.
I can not imagine how much testing it takes, even in a format that's comparatively small like Standard, to figure out these matchups. Like, especially if the games go so long. Do you just theorize, or do you actually take somebody and tell them, I need to play
I think this is where the team
mid-range mirrors?
This is where the
do
team
you have
comes
a
in.
week?
This is why Paul Reitzel hasn't been watching football for the last couple of weeks.
He wasn't allowed to.
All right,
Somebody's got to play the matchups.
Thoughtseize here from Sean McLaren reveals a truly impressive hand from Chapin. A pair of Sorens, Murderous Cuts,
3
Lilianas.
Planeswalkers, 2 removal spells, and a Siege Rhino. That's all I got.
Yeah. Which one would you like to take? I guess not Soren.
No, it's especially because your real hope of winning this game is to keep the board relatively empty so that you can pressure the Planeswalkers.
Okay, so that means that he's going to follow up with his Elspeth here.
Yeah. Sean is, well, Patrick has been prioritizing.
He's killing. You just said it, Simon. You said he wants to keep the board clear. Well, that's what he's doing. He's killing Siege Rhino here with Elspeth.
That's the best way of getting a true 2-for-1 out of this turn. He also got the other end, so now Patrick does need something else to get rid of Elspeth, and because he's not ahead on board, he's just lacking that right now.
Huh. So Sean McLaren is going to be able to pass a turn with Elspeth Sun's Champion still in play, with ample defense to protect her.
If I had to summarize what's happening, I think that
you do have to.
That's my job, right?
Yes.
I think that Patrick has been trying to just generate card advantage, but Sean, with all his lines, was always focused on the battlefield. It was always, how do I not fall behind in creatures? How do I get stuff to stick? And there has been Elspeth, but it was also the other end play on his opponent's Siege Rhino.
Yes.
Now the minus ability. I don't want to see you have a Siege Rhino. I want my own. I want to pressure your Planeswalkers because I know how many you have after boarding.
Right, and Chapin's been generally limited to 1 big spell per turn. There was a couple of times where he fired off Read the Bones and something, but here, he's going to have to decide how he wants to proceed again. It could be Siege Rhino plus Soren.
Remember, 10 minutes ago when Pat was up 8 cards?
Yes.
That's what I said. He has been focusing on cards, but I'm not sure.
No, you're right. McLaren can play. He can just flat out play Magic.
And you know what? Nissa is not only a Planeswalker that needs to be dealt with, it's also a hasty 4/4 Trampler. That looks quite strong on this board.
Yeah, this Siege Rhino is going to help shore that up significantly. 4/4 Tramplers don't look so great against 4/5. But
what if you throw an Absent Charm into the mix?
Yes, that changes everything. It's also one of the combinations of 2 cards that Sean McLaren can play next turn if he wants to go for that play. And in the meantime, this is the big 2-spell payoff turn here for Chapin as he gets to play
I was
Soren
going
as
to say,
well.
This late in the game, we finally see 2 spells in one turn.
Yes.
It's not entirely true, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah, but it's huge, right? I mean, he got to play a Planeswalker and a Siege Rhino in the same turn.
And now it's up to Sean to once again prove if he can pressure this Planeswalker sufficiently. But
this has been like a ping pong game, right? It's just you're up.
Both of these players.
Can he remove both creatures and then the 2 tokens kill Soren?
He has an Absent Charm, but does he have something to get rid of?
A second Absent Charm.
Double Absent Charm, yeah.
But that doesn't get rid of the Vampire.
Oh.
It's close, but well, wait. He just gets to kill Soren anyway if he uses his tokens and the +1/+1 counters. This is going to prove to us how aggressive he wants to play this.
Right. So the first one takes down the Siege Rhino, and here they come.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to block because otherwise your Soren is dying. I think this might be the time where Patrick is realizing, wow.
Oh, wow.
You don't block.
Well, he wants the Vampire to be able to kill Elspeth, I think.
That's a good point.
He didn't want to risk
he's
the
also
Vampire
got
in combat.
he's got a second Soren as well. So
that's true.
So that was definitely smart. He had the read on the Absent Charm. He knew that
from earlier
that was an option. The thing is, you can make the attack even if you don't have the Absent Charm.
Right.
Yes.
But it has been bluffed and represented so many times.
All right, and a Siege Rhino follow-up. Again, the ping pong match, though, I think is in Sean's favor now. As it's back on Patrick Chapin now to react to what Sean's doing. Somehow he's wrestled that tempo back away, and he's the one who has the superior board state.
But now Chapin, without a Dawnfall in hand, has found a way to kill Elspeth. I think that's huge.
That's huge. And here's a Thoughtseize as well to further strip away cards from McLaren, and he's got a nice hand here as well. Corsair, a Nissa, and an Abzan Charm.
It's got to be Nissa, right?
Nissa's
I think the Planeswalkers are the most scary card.
It's the most outwardly powerful card here.
Both hands, actually. I'm actually wondering if Patrick Chapin is regretting the attack with the Cursor. He got a Soldier token, but it meant that he didn't have it as a blocker.
Right.
Which made things a bit easier for Sean to figure out, I think. Ultimately, it would have probably ended up the same. Yep, Nissa goes to the graveyard. This is just who gets to stick a Planeswalker, and then you have to make moves like use Soren as a 2/2 flyer. It's just a 2/2 flyer. That's good enough because the skies is where the Planeswalker battle is decided. Yeah, I think we talk about board presence a lot, but not really in these mid-range matchups.
Right, here comes Liliana Vess here for Chapin.
That doesn't look to be the strongest time to cast her. Because
he's going up,
He's plussing Liliana. He knows the 2 cards that Sean has. He's got Corsair Fix and Abzan Charm, and he'd like to get either of those, and then maybe the next turn even the other one of those.
Oh, wait, are you also Thoughtseize here?
He already did.
He thought.
Oh, okay. So he did Thoughtseize first, and then knew the cards were good enough to discard.
Exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't like Sean was going to discard a Plains there, so. And we get to kill Elspeth as well, thanks to the Vampire token. So, nice positioning here from both players. Yep. This is really interesting.
Keeping around the Vampire was the first step. Now demolishing.
Oh, Nissa
off the top here for Sean.
So much for demolishing his hand.
Yeah. He's also still got that Abzan Charm.
Does that mean Liliana dies now?
Let's see, with 1 blocker back. Yeah, I guess she was going to die anyway.
Yeah, she was going to die anyway.
This is 13 damage, by the way. Just saying. There's Curse of Proofings on defense.
Why is that relevant?
And a murder is caught for Chapin, so he isn't close to dying, but the amount of power that Sean McLaren has on the battlefield after this Nissa is so much more than what Patrick has.
But he can't quite pay for Nissa and the Abzan Charm here, which could increase it to nearly or maybe even lethal.
Which I think is the big advantage that Patrick had this game. he did have the mana earlier to cast 2 relevant spells each turn.
Chapin wants to make sure that the one
Didn't
that...
I get rid of that?
Yeah.
How didn't it wasn't there?
The ye old draw step appears.
Pro Tour stamped Nissa too.
So does Sean just go for it and not worry about Liliana here? She can't do a ton next turn anyway, except for make him discard the Abzan Charm.
Well,
and he can do a huge chunk to Chapin.
Do you think he can raise this?
Who?
Well, Sean is definitely the one who has the decision to raise here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you.
He needs a blocker if he wants his Nissa to survive. And 1/1s are harder to kill than Siege Rhinos, it seems, in this matchup.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's also not the creature that you want to kill with Murderous Cut, obviously.
Right.
So, once again, Sean is giving Patrick an opening to kill his Planeswalker, but it comes with a big price.
I mean, does Chapin even have that option? How much damage would he be taking?
Yeah, I would love to know who is being attacked. The fact that all these soldiers are attacking makes me think that it could actually be Chapin.
Chapin is going to chump block
because you don't attack a Planeswalker with 12 points of damage, I think.
And here's the Murderous Cut to take down.
Oh, they are attacking Liliana.
They were going to attack Liliana. All right, so Murderous Cut, though, takes down the Siege Rhino.
But Curse of Proving is chump blocking to protect Liliana at 2 loyalty.
He wants to get that Abzan Charm out of Sean's hand and have him on no cards. But with a Nissa.
So what does he have left? Sorin?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absent Charm off the top?
Yep.
And that kills Nissa because of the counters. Is that his line here?
That could be a thing.
I can't see him wanting to play a game where Nissa is on the battlefield.
No, that's going to get out of hand very, very quickly.
Just like he had to kill Elspeth, but he always had to pay like these small prizes for it. He had to get rid of his Sorin. So somehow Sean has pressured him enough so that Patrick had to take some trades that weren't all that favorable. Chump blocking with the Corsair here, that seems like a very expensive Liliana.
Well, you're effectively trading the Corsair for the Abzan Charm, right?
And
you keep Liliana around long enough to go
and
up.
further pressure, right? Because the Liliana will be attacked again, so you save your life total.
Yep. He's going to go down to tutor? Wow.
Okay, well, it looks like he doesn't care about that Abzan Charm so much.
Is this the tutor for Siege Rhino? Where you just try to survive. Oh, it looks like a Doom Blast to me. That's a trump card. That is, the one-offs make a lot more sense when you play Vampiric Tutor.
Yeah. Hilariously, it was already on top of his deck,
which he would have known if Curse of Krufix hadn't died. But then Sean McLaren would have also known.
Also, yeah.
All right, so Patrick Chapin at 14 life, Sean McLaren at 13 life.
You agree that you don't see a line where Nissa survives this?
I mean, having a 4/4 flyer is also good with Dune Blast, but that does play into the Abzan Charm.
It certainly does. But Nissa is just too important. He just can't let Nissa survive. So 2 counters on this and kill you.
So his lines are consistent here. He has done everything he could without a downfall to get rid of Elspeth. Now he's played exactly like he had to get rid of Nissa. And he knows that this is a battle that's decided through Planeswalkers. He's also holding a Sorin. And now, if you have a Sorin in hand and play it, you're just losing it.
Right.
But if you wait for Doom Blast...
Exactly.
Then
so this vampire, by the way...
Oh, it was Elspeth off the top.
Was that Elspeth?
Yes.
Goodness sakes. This has just been windmill after windmill. That vampire has killed 2 planeswalkers on its own.
And that's a very important point because I don't necessarily think that the +1 is what Sean McLaren should be going for.
He might want to just kill the vampire.
But that
he loses his land.
But he loses his lands if he does that. So,
I think you just Abzan Charm and do Elspeth next turn, maybe?
Yeah, I definitely think that you don't expose Elspeth to Dune Blast plus attack, for example.
Yeah, you know Patrick just tutored as well. I mean, Sean's seen the list. He knows there's a Dune Blast in there. He's got to suspect that that's what Patrick's going to draw.
And if Patrick got an Elspeth, you're winning the battle. You're winning the Elspeth battle.
Because you get to be the first one with Elspeth.
And you have a 5
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys in play.
Right, so huge for him.
But if you don't really want to Elspeth minus this turn because you're losing your land. Now, with Patrick at 14, I don't know if Sean knows that there is a Sorin in his hand.
He does know.
He does.
Okay.
Yeah, he saw it a while ago.
So if he does know that, then he also knows that there is no murderous cut. So he can basically just attack for 9, bring his opponent down to 5. He knows that much, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and he can only cast one of his 2 spells. I think you Obs on Charm to kill the 4/4 flyer.
But you don't do that until your opponent has cast something? Or do you just... I'm not sure if you take another 4 damage just to have more information. Because it could still be a Sea Trainer, but then you still have the minus of Elspeth. So you're actually safe from most cards that can happen. And if Patrick got a Planeswalker here, then the Absent Charm is still going to be either threatening to remove blockers or just pumping a creature for lethal. That's actually quite relevant also, the low life total of Patrick.
All right, so Sean McLaren's going to pass the turn back.
Yeah, I think that's a great play.
I like that play a lot. And here's Obs on Charm to take down that vampire.
So, Dune Blast incoming?
Yes.
Gotta be.
And it's the Dune Blast where you don't choose a creature. So all of them down. And he's going to pass the turn back. And now Sean McLaren gets to untap and say, Elspeth, Sun's Champion, make 3 tokens, go. And by the way, Chapin, you're at 5. So these things are going to be very difficult to deal with.
And by the way, I was holding that just to wait for your Dune Blast.
Yeah.
Right.
Patrick kind of leaned in and did a bit of a double take.
Yeah, and now Chapin's on just Sorin.
Sorin does not fight Elspeth particularly
You
well.
know what? I'm sad that Sean McLaren is not in the top 4.
Yeah,
so
wow, he's
that we
playing
could
good.
see more of this amazing gameplay.
I agree with you.
This has been fantastic stuff.
He's probably gonna finish 5th here.
Is that a Siege Rhino
Yeah.
off the top
It's a
as
lethal-
well? So
it's a
that's
lethal
it.
Siege Rhino.
That would do it. All he has to do is attack and dodge 1 removal spell that he doesn't know what Chapin drew. We know it's a land. He doesn't know for sure.
True.
He could say, well, I'll wait a turn. No, he's going for it. He's just going to attack at Chapin, get you down to 2. Or get you down to 3, I mean. And Siege Rhino finishes it off. Sean McLaren defeats Chapin. It shouldn't change the standings or anything as far as top 4 goes for McLaren, as Shahar Shenhar seems to have sealed that deal. But a really nice finish to end the tournament there for McLaren.
Yeah, picks up a couple $1,000s for clinching top 8. And a lot of respect.
Yes.
Dude can play.
Simon likes him. He's like, I want to watch this guy play more.
Yes,
That was
definitely.
great.
I'm sure we will.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good point.
It's just the
It's a good
tiebreakers are
point.
probably too cruel to let him join the top 4.
Right. So we're going to be heading back over to the news desk momentarily here, and we'll let Rich kind of break everything down and get down to what's been going on outside of the feature match area, as well as, you know, there was other matches going that are going to kind of shape the rest of the top 8 and how that's going to look. But if you're just tuning in, we do have our top 4. We've got Kentaro Yamamoto and Yuya Watanabe of Japan. So both of them, they shook hands a whole round ago and said, yeah, we'll see you there. No problem. And then we've also got Shahar Shenhar and Patrick Chapin. So
many storylines.
yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. And for those of you that are just tuning in as well, we've been going for 2 days here. This is just the beginning, though. We've got a dark day tomorrow. Tomorrow's our day off. But we come back for the World Magic Cup the day after that. And then the World Magic Cup again the day after that. And then on Sunday, we get to bring you not only the top 8 of the World Magic Cup, but the top 4 that we're sealing the deal on here today of the World Championship.
All the finals.
Yeah. Wow. And we have a chance for multiple time, 2 different people that are going to be fighting to be world champion twice. All right. Well, it looks like Rich Hagan is ready over at the news desk. Let's send it over there.
Thank you very much indeed to the Trinity in the booth, bringing you the last round action there. Sean McLaren, that guy, seriously, such a great player, and he does it all himself. No teamwork. He sits there, he figures it all out for himself. Those of you who think, oh, I'll never be a great Magic player, I don't have a team. Well, it turns out, if you're like Sean McLaren, you can be a team with Sean McLaren, and that's enough. He's just a beating. But also, of course, congratulations to Patrick Chapin. We know that he is in the Final Four. We already knew that before the last round. We also knew that the Japanese pair of Kentaro Yamamoto and Yuya Watanabe would also be in the top 4. Our narrative has been throughout that Shahar Shenhar, with a win, would be 4th. That is our best guess still, but final standings will be coming in just a moment, and we will head across to the Final Four announcement to hear the top 4 announced with Scott Larrabee in just a moment or two. But why don't I fill you in with the final round results? Nam Sung-wook, he's at 5-9. That means Paulovita Dama de Rosa ends up at 4-10. Jeremy Desani won his last match to finish just below 500 at 6-8. Well done to Ray Perez Jr., the rookie. He didn't have a GP top 8, didn't have a Pro Tour top 8 coming in, but he has fought against the absolute best, come out with a 5-9 record. He can hold his head high, and you can bet that he will be back at the top tables very, very soon. Jacob Wilson wins. He's 6-8. And then Li Shi Chan, that means, falls to 4-10 with Paulovita Dama de Rosa. Paul Rietzel, well, he started out 1-4, and it was a tough road to come back from there. But from 1-4, he went 6-3 to end up 7-7. And Ralph Levy, who was his final round opponent, tweeted, "This was the toughest field I've ever faced," and Ralph Levy's been in just about every Pro Tour ever. So it does give you a guide just what he's up against. Reed Duke fought back. He was sort of out of contention for quite a long time, but back end of the day, got into standard and really pulled things together. He winds up at 7-7. Tom Martell falls to 6-8 as a result. Also 6-8, Stanislav Sivka, and that means that Willie Adel goes to 5-9. So disappointing start to Worlds Week for the Brazilian pair, but Willie Adel will be back at the weekend for the World Magic Cup. So who else do we have? Even Flock playing blue-black control, just as Sivka was. Well, Flock ended up winning his last match over Josh Utter-Leighton. Wouldn't surprise me if Josh was just destroyed from that match against Sivka. He had to then face the same blue-black list again. Flock goes to 8-6, Josh to 7-7. Lars Dam, congratulations to him, 7-7. Owen Turtenwoud, your #1 player in the world, picks up 7 pro points in his quest to be Player of the Year again. 7-7 for Owen. Yuya Watanabe 10-3-1 over William Jensen at 8-6. So we're waiting for the final standings to come together, but we have a very special guest who's joining us all through Worlds Week. You're going to hear a ton more from him during the World Magic Cup. But first, here's a little sneak preview. Brian David Marshall with the one and only Mark Rosewater.
Hey everybody, Mark, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So we're waiting on the announcement, tiebreakers, trying to see what goes on here, but potentially we could have 3 players in the top 4 who've all appeared in the finals of a world championship before. Well, you know, what does that say to you about the experience it takes to succeed at a tournament?
Well,
like
I mean,
this?
Ralph Levy just said that this was the hardest tournament he ever played in, and I mean, we're talking about people that have mostly been here, that've been on the world stage, been in the finals of a world championship, and like, for example, 2 of them have won, and 1 of them came in 2nd, you know, and I know that like Pat, I remember in New York, so he was like just this close to winning, and I know that like he was very happy to have come in 2nd, but you know, being world champion is a great honor, you know, and I've talked over the years to all the different players, and like you can win a pro tour, there's all sorts of things you can do, but nothing really matches saying I'm the world champion.
Yeah, we had Chapin sitting in this seat earlier, and he said, I said, when did, you know, he's talked about this constantly this year, this idea that he's always the world champion. I'm like, when did that inkling first come to you? And he's like, when Zach Dolan won the world championship in 1994. Now,
I was there, yes.
You were there.
In fact, I actually played in the 1994 World, the only one I ever played in. I was an employee from then on, but I actually went to Gen Con. I was trying to get more work at Wizards at the time. I was a freelancer. It was an open tournament. Anybody could play in it. There were flights. There were 8 flights. The top 8 advanced to the finals, which was 64, still single elimination, and they cut down until, you know, Zach Dolan from the U.S. plays Bertrand Lestrade of France in a best of 3. Zach Dolan takes it, becomes the first world champ. And then we played him up in the Duelist, and he wrote articles, and he was the first, in some way, the first celebrity that we really played up of like, here's somebody who's a great Magic player.
Well, you talk a lot about that aspirational aspect of the Pro Tour and the World Championships, and so you know that your work that you did in terms of that aspirational, you know it worked, because Patrick's here still playing 20 years later, trying to win that title. Yeah, that's got to feel good.
No, I mean, I remember it was very funny because Catherine Haynes was the editor of the Duelist, and like, we're trying to figure out what kind of articles we can write, and I said, you know what, Zach Dolan should write an article, and he started writing for us. Now, most people don't know, like, Zach Dolan's story is an awesome story. So he comes to Gen Con in his truck, which breaks down, like, as he's driving in the city, he literally has to hitchhike to Gen Con to get there. And then he competes in the event, goes through it all, wins. Now, back in the day, we didn't award a $50,000 prize. You just got like a giant stack of Magic cards, and like a jacket with like a Minotaur in the back. So.
I don't have my Minotaur jacket.
I have my Minotaur jacket, yeah.
I don't know where. That's amazing. So what did you play? Do you remember what you played at that Worlds?
I remember. It was my favorite little deck. At the time, this is around the time of Legends, that nobody was playing creatures in their deck because it was just only stupid people played creatures in Magic. So I made this little weenie blue-green deck that basically I played out like Flying Men and Scrib Sprites, and I could kill you like turn 1 in a perfect world, but usually I could kill you like turn 2, turn 3. And the best was I would play Birds of Paradise, and people never thought that was a threat for some reason. And then I would like Unstable Mutation, Giant Growth, Regrowth, Giant Growth, kill you with the Bird of Paradise.
Was there a Berserk involved?
Oh yeah, there was a Berserk. Yeah.
I was doing the math. I'm like, I'm
sorry. Yeah, it's Unstable, Giant Growth, Berserk, Regrowth, Berserk. You're dead. Something like that. So
quadruple it.
Yeah. So it was. But anyway, that was my deck, this little blue-green deck. And I did really well until I ran into like some guy whose like brother played a deck like it, and he had built a deck to stop that deck, which was my deck. So, but
no limited back then. It was all constructed.
Everything was what we think of as vintage, right? It was all constructed. It was, it was Magic. There was no format,
right?
So you just played Magic. But that was, my deck had a Lotus in it, and had I only had the Emerald and the Sapphire Mox, because like who would play off-color Moxes in their deck?
Right.
But I had Mishra's Factories, and anyway, it was fun, old school. Very old school deck.
Any sense at that World Championship that 20 years later we'd be in Nice, Bertrand Lestree's country?
Yes. Well, it's interesting. So this is my 20th World. So I've been to 20 out of 21 Worlds. Rome, I missed Rome.
But it was a good one.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is early on, like first we were at Gen Con. And then Wizards said, we should have our own event. It shouldn't just be somebody else's event. So in '95, we were in a hotel, the Red Line Hotel, near the airport in Seattle. And then we were in Seattle for a while. Then we were in the corporate headquarters. Then we were in the basement of the tournament center.
I was there.
And then we were in the University of Washington. And then finally in '99, they're like, okay, maybe we should go somewhere else. We should get out of Seattle. And we went to Yokohama. And young upstart Kai Buddha won in 1999. So, but it's been fun. One of the neat things is watching. I've been all around the world. Like just attending Worlds, I've been to 4 continents, and I've been all over the place. And it's just neat. I love the history of the game, and I know later this week we're going to talk all about. I think Randy and I are going to talk all about the history of Worlds.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil it. We just want to whet people's appetites. It's going to be a big piece that they're going to do. So we're going to send it back to the news desk. For Mark Rosewater, this is Brian David Marshall.
All right, can't wait for that, but you don't have to wait for the top 4 announcement of the World Championship 2014. Let's hand you across to the tournament organizer here, Mr. Scott Larrabee.
Hello and welcome to the 2014 Magic the Gathering World Championship Top 4 announcement. In first place, with a record of 10 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw, from Japan, Yuya Watanabe. In second place, with a record of 10 wins and 4 losses, from the United States, Patrick Chapin. In third place, with a record of 9 wins, 4 losses and 1 draw from Japan, Kentaro Yamamoto. And in 4th place with a record of 9 wins and 5 losses from Israel, Shahar Shenhar. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2014 World Championship top 4. Join us Sunday as these competitors battle to see who is the 2014 Magic the Gathering World Champion. Thank you for watching us, and good night from Nice.